I hope you're having a good day today. We're going to be looking when the Lord chooses the 12 apostles. In our study, our hymn is called The Son of God Goes Forth to War.
The Son of God goes forth to war, a kingly crown to gain. His blood-red banner streams afar, who follows in his train? Who best can drink his cup of woe, triumphant over pain? Who patient bears his cross below, he follows in his train. Noble army men and boys, the matron and the maid, around the Savior's throne rejoice, in robes of light arrayed. They climb the steep ascent of them, through peril, toil, and pain. O God, to us may grace be given to follow in their train.
The Son of God Goes Forth to War. Let's look at our account. We're going to be looking in Luke 6 as well as Mark 3. Luke 6, Now it came to pass in those days that he went out to the mountain to pray, and continued all night in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles: Simon, whom he also named Peter, and Andrew his brother, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew, Matthew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon called the Zealot, Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who also became a traitor. What points might we consider? 1. Before the Lord appoints them, he first prays all night on the mountain. And so we might think about that. The Lord prayed. Jesus, the Son of God, the Lord, prayed. You know, we think about prayer, and you might remember what Jesus said about Peter when Peter said he would not deny the Lord, and Jesus says that the devil had asked to sift him like wheat, but I have prayed for you, he says. And the Lord was praying about the work that was about to commence. And so, as it says, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. You might notice that. We make the point in Acts chapter 1 when a replacement for Judas is being made because Scripture called for it. And they, of all those who had accompanied them from the time of John the Baptist up to the resurrection, the ascension, such things as that one of them would be a witness. So they propose 2, and then they pray, and the Lord effectively chooses Matthias. With that account, we often make the point about the fellow who did not get chosen. That didn't mean that he wasn't saved, but the Lord had his reason for not choosing him, and so he probably had some soul searching to do. Well, here, the Lord calls his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12. And so we could probably make the same point. Not everybody was chosen to be an apostle, probably for different reasons. It doesn't necessarily have to reflect negatively on the disciples at all. It may be just their circumstances or whatever it is. The Lord chose 12 from amongst them. And so it did not mean they could not continue to be disciples. Does not mean they could not continue to follow the Lord, do his will, but he chose 12 from amongst them, and then gives their names. And most people think that they're paired up intentionally, and so Simon and Andrew, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew. And so you might consider that as well. Something, though, that Mark mentions that Luke's account does not. In the Gospel of Mark, it's going to be in Mark chapter 3. When he sends them out, what are they to do? He appointed 12, verse 14, that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach and to have power to heal sicknesses and to cast out demons. And then you have the names. And so we once again think about the point of the miracles confirming the word. I think that's an important point that people really need to understand, especially when people are young in the faith or perhaps they're not Christians, and you read through Scripture and you read about these miracles, and then you hear people talking about, it's like, well, the age of the miracles is past. Some people think the age of the miracles has not passed. But when you start studying the subject and you look through 1 Corinthians 12 and 13 and you look at the pertinent passages, and one of the things you try to show is the miracles had a purpose, and the purpose all along was to confirm the word. They were sent out to preach and to have power to heal sicknesses and to cast out demons. And so you see the nature of the miracles even here as they're preaching. And so you might think about what they would run into. And it's the same thing that Jesus ran into. And it's the same thing, anyway, that people would be very interested in the signs. Sort of like in John chapter 6, the feeding of the 5,000. Man, they really loved that sign. They're ready to make him a king. But when he starts teaching and preaching, they don't have much use for that, and they walk with him no more. And that's what they would run into pretty often. And so we heed the word. We recognize the power of the word. It is living and powerful and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. And this is why it's an adulterous generation that seeks after signs. No, what we crave is the word. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.